Am I mad to be on Octopus Agile without a home battery? So I'm going to try and cover a little bit more about home energy, smart homes and home automation on this channel because I think it's a natural fit with EVs. The price that you're paying to charge at home can make a really big difference to how much it costs to run your car, and so I think understanding ways people can make that cheaper is a good thing. And also the sort of smart home automation stuff that can go alongside trying to make the most out of a smart tariff is also a natural progression. Most people, I think, are familiar with Octopus Go, a fairly simple time of use tariff where you get 4 hours of super cheap charging overnight, and then anything else you can shift to that window is also billed at that cheap rate. And at the moment, that would be 9.5 pence per kilowatt hour if you were on the Octopus Go tariff. There is a downside with this type of tariff though, is that your day rate increases just a little bit. So if you use quite a lot of energy during the day, you'll need to be charging an awful lot as well in order to offset it. The day rate for my area at the time of filming is 39.5 pence per kilowatt hour, and that was about 6 pence above the standard tariff. EV drivers charging every night or most nights should still save huge amounts if they're using Octopus Go, but it's not necessarily the best for everyone. You need to check your bills and you need to understand what your usage patterns look like before you change to any type of smart tariff, no matter what it is or who it's with. But what on earth is Octopus Agile? It's a constantly variable tariff. Every half-hour slot has a different price each day that's tied to the wholesale energy price. And this is how providers pay for their wholesale energy, and what Octopus are essentially doing is letting you get in on the action by charging you half-hourly rates that are in line with what they pay wholesale, and then with sort of little profit margin on top. Pretty much every day has a peak time between 4 PM and 7 PM, and this is always where you're going to be paying the most for your electricity. Although there can sometimes be other peaks during the day, and you do need to keep a really close eye on the rates. It's definitely not for people that don't want to take an active interest in their usage and their tariff. If you just want to be able to plug your car in and let it charge at the same time every day, and you don't want to think too much about what you're using in the house at certain times, it's very much not for you, and therefore you shouldn't be considering it at all, I would say. Octopus apply a price cap. This is different to the government, the Ofgem price cap. This tariff is not subject to that. And when the tariff first launched, this was 35 pence per kilowatt hour, which at the time, back then, seemed like a huge amount to potentially be paying for electricity. Things have changed a little bit. The cap is now 100 pence. Yeah, that's right, £1 per kilowatt hour. Remember the outrage when Osprey changed the tariff for their rapid chargers to £1 per kilowatt hour? Well, you too can have that experience at home if things get particularly bad. There is a risk that your electricity could become seriously expensive during peak times. And that is where people with solar and with batteries can ride that out. They can fill the battery up when it's cheaper, and they can use the battery when the peak price is really high, and that means you don't have any exposure to it as long as you've got enough battery storage to ride it out. I've been a fan of Octopus Energy for a while now, as those of you who have been watching the channel will no doubt already know. No matter what type of tariff you're interested in, their customer service is fantastic, and their attitude towards bringing these innovative tariffs to market is way beyond that of any other competitors, in my opinion. There's a referral link in the description. If you use that to switch to Octopus, we would both get £50 credit on our bills. That's a good couple of thousand miles of EV driving, completely free of charge. This video isn't sponsored, it's 100% my own views. Referrals do obviously help a little bit with the costs of running the channel, but you're under absolutely no obligation, and if you're not interested in switching to Octopus, that's absolutely fair enough. But if you do want to move on to one of these smart tariffs, I'd really appreciate it if you would use the referral. So then, I hear you say, why on earth would you be on Agile when you don't have a battery to ride out these peaks? And in fact, yes, to answer the question from the title, you'd be absolutely crazy to be doing that if it means you're paying £1 per kilowatt hour, and that's exactly what I think most of you are saying. Well, to answer your question, let's take a look at some of the average prices for the past couple of months. Until I moved house recently, I was on one of the cherished old Octopus Go tariffs, paying 13.5 pence a day and 5 pence a night. Managed to ride that out for a little bit longer than I should have because there was a bit of a mistake with the expiry date. And nothing on the market at the moment is going to get anywhere near that, obviously. The 39 pence day rate on Go wasn't quite going to cut it though. There's two of us working from home the majority of the time and not actually charging that often, which means it doesn't stack up very well. And I wasn't overly keen to go to paying the standard tariff rate at 34 pence. I mean, it's just come down very slightly, but it was 34 pence. It doesn't really cut it either. The standing charge on Agile is also slightly lower, which is a bit odd. I'm not sure why. I mean, you think it would be a little bit higher because there was more overheads involved having to administrate this tariff, but no. But as you can see from these graphs for the past couple of months, the peak time was still capped at 34 pence because of the energy price guarantee that was in place. But the rest, if you look at everything below the peak, there are still massive savings to be had outside of these peak times versus other tariffs. Pretty much every day recently has seen rates below 16 pence, which is plenty cheap enough, I think, to be paying when I do need to charge. It's not as low as the off-peak on Go, but then the adjusted rates for the rest of the day more than make up for it. There's even the odd day now and again where prices head down towards zero. That's right, free electricity. Or even better than that, actually, prices can go negative. Octopus can actually pay you for the energy that you use. Although that didn't happen very often, it did actually happen last weekend. Take a look at these rates. One with a couple of the half-hour slots there being minus 19 pence per kilowatt hour. So we're paying 19 pence for every kilowatt hour of energy that I was using. But what I really like though is it makes you think about load shifting. Can I run the dishwasher at a different time, or should we maybe do a bunch of batch cooking while things are cheaper, and then it means you don't have to put the oven on at the peak time every night, and those kind of things that you can do, the big little changes that mean you're using your energy at the cheaper times, which more often than not are the lower carbon times, and you're also helping balance the grid. I've long since said that time of use tariffs like this are essential for a clean, balanced grid. And Agile is definitely the purest example of that. There isn't any other provider offering you the opportunity at the moment to get in on that. But I do think long term, this will become the future. This is how we'll all be paying for our energy going forward. Taking full advantage of Agile does need a little bit of thought. Octopus publish rates the day before for the day ahead, and you'll need to be keeping a close eye on that. There are a number of apps that show you this in various formats, along with features like they can tell you how long, if you want to turn something on that takes X hours to run, it can tell you the best time of day to turn that on. And they also give you the rates on their website in your account section. But it's much, much easier to use the various apps that are available in order to do that. There are too many apps out there to mention, but there's loads of them, but you'll easily find one that works in the whatever app store you have for your device. EV charging can be a little bit more involved. There aren't that many chargers on the market that have what I would call proper integration with Agile, which would be saying like, I only want to pay X pence per kilowatt hour to charge. There are a few, but not very many. And so you'd probably need to set timers to flick on and off and that kind of thing, should you want to, if you don't have a charger that's Agile aware. Ohmie is one of the very few chargers I know of with native Agile support, so you can say, I don't want to pay more than 20 pence per kilowatt hour, and it will just go off and it will charge your car when the slots align with that in terms of cost. It's absolutely brilliant. You can also run other home automation routines based on the price of energy. So one thing I'm thinking about doing is getting a switch bot, a thing that flicks switches on and off, to control the immersion heater for my central heating system, so when rates are really, really low, I can use electricity to top up the hot water rather than relying on gas. Probably one for another video where we'll go through how we would set that up, but I do think that's something I'll do in the future. But as I said earlier, it's more one for those that want to really geek out over this stuff and get really involved in it. If you don't care about it, you're not going to get on with Agile at all. Be warned, you will care far more about how much electricity costs at any given moment than you're probably ready for. Now that the energy price guarantee has ended, we'll need to keep a very close eye on those peak hours. I'll do a follow-up video in a couple of months' time and we can have a look at how that 4 PM to 7 PM window has shifted now that it's not hovering around the sort of 33 pence, which is it's forced to by the energy price guarantee. That could get quite interesting as we move up towards that £1 per kilowatt hour. I don't think we're going to get as high as £1, but it could be quite painful at times. But that's all for this video. Hopefully that's an interesting insight into a tariff that a lot of folks might not quite know so much about. Let me know in the comments if you find this type of content useful. I'm going to try it out for a little bit, but nothing shows me better whether it works or not than your feedback. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.